This is Daily Armenia, ＳիվիլNeթ's daily news digest. Here's what's making headlines in Armenia today. Death cases in Armenian penitentiaries have sharply risen this year, reaching 20 so far, including 8 suicides compared to just 12 cases in 2024, according to figures cited by local publication Media Lab. These figures are very worrying. These incidents reflect not only poor detention conditions and inadequate healthcare and psychological services, but also a lack of respect for human dignity, as well as cultural and management gaps. Zara Hovhannisyan, one of the human rights activists exercising public oversight in penitentiaries, told the outlet yesterday. Hovhannisyan also joined criticism of the frequent use of pretrial detention in Armenia, calling it an overly restrictive measure for suspects. She said alternatives such as bail or house arrest remain underused. I would also like to mention the influence of prison hierarchy, shaped by criminal subculture, which draws every inmate into its network, with resulting negative consequences that can lead to self-harm or suicide, she added. Hovhannisyan singled out Nubarashen prison on the outskirts of Yerevan as having the worst conditions among Armenia's correctional facilities, noting that the negative environment there also affects staff. Official statistics show that 12 inmates died in Armenian prisons in 2024, none of them by suicide, while 16 deaths were recorded in 2023, including 2 suicides. At the same time, data from the 2023 edition of the Council of Europe's report, which tracks prison populations in Europe, shows that Armenia's prison population has nearly halved over the past decade, from 155.2 inmates per 100,000 people in 2013 to 79.2 in 2023. The same report classified the prevalence of suicides in Armenian prisons as high, placing the country in the second most concerning category among European countries. Armenia should impose a permanent ban on the export of used catalytic converters and tighten vehicle emission standards to combat growing air pollution, according to a report by the International Energy Agency and the European Union, published last week. The study said the widespread removal and export of catalytic filters, key components that cut toxic exhaust gases, has severely worsened air quality in major cities in recent decades. Many imported second-hand cars arrive with the converters dismantled for resale as scrap, leaving vehicles on Armenia's roads emitting far above permissible limits. The IEA called for stronger inspections, customs oversight, and penalties for non-compliant importers, along with the introduction of a green inspection regime that could cut urban particulate emissions by up to 40% over the next 10 years. It also urged the government to harmonize fuel and emission standards with those of the European Union. Reducing pollution from road vehicles, improving fuel quality, and promoting electrification are essential steps for meeting the country's climate goals and reducing its heavy dependence on imported fossil fuels, the report concluded. Saudi Arabia has expressed strong interest in investing in Armenia's economy, particularly in education, construction, high technology, and artificial intelligence, senior lawmaker Babken Tunyan told ＳiվiLNeթ in an interview published Tuesday. Tunyan, who serves as deputy chair of the Parliamentary Economic Affairs Committee, said a Saudi delegation recently visited Yerevan to explore possible cooperation projects. Their visit can be considered historic, as it came at a very symbolic moment, shortly after the signing of peace agreements, he said, referring to ongoing Armenia-Azerbaijan normalization talks. They told us they had planned it this way, to show confidence in Armenia's stability and future. Tunyan described the discussions as a sign of growing investor trust and international confidence in Armenia's political and economic trajectory. Diplomatic relations between Armenia and Saudi Arabia were only established in November 2023, ending 3 decades of non-recognition linked to Riyadh's earlier support for Azerbaijan in the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. The breakthrough followed years of gradually warming contacts, driven partly by Saudi Arabia's rift with Turkey and shared opposition to Ankara's regional policies. And as always, please follow ＳiviLNeթ for the latest news and independent reporting from our contributors on the ground here in Armenia.